Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here, y'all, to talk about a new series that's appearing on Netflix. It's called Blue Therapy. And y'all, I like it. I like it a lot. Y'all have let me know that it's new, but it's old. From what y'all tell me, the first season was on YouTube. And some of you said you didn't like it because you felt it was all contrived and fake. And I guess I heard some of you people talking to me and telling me that the people were fake and that the therapist was fake. I don't know what went on. I really don't. But somehow or another, whatever it was, Netflix said, "Ooh, let us pick it up." I wonder if it's similar to what they did with because it's definitely based in, I don't know if we're in the UK. Maybe we're in the UK. Um, it almost reminds me a bit like Pop the Balloon, how Netflix picked up Pop the Balloon, where it was a viral hit on YouTube, and then they tried to bring it over to Netflix. I haven't watched Pop the Balloon on Netflix, so I don't know if it's doing well or not. But that's a little bit of the backstory from what you all tell me. But hey, I wasn't there. I wasn't there last year on YouTube, but I'm here now on Netflix. And let me tell you why I like it. So far, the reason why I like it, and I've only watched episode one, is because of the problems the couples are discussing are very, very real. These are things that couples really, really go through. Like, they don't feel like fake storylines. And even if, let me say this, even if they're fake storylines, then they're doing a really good job with the storytelling because this stuff is real. Now, what I don't like about it so far, and like I said, I'm only on episode one. I don't like the therapist. Her name is Karen. She's horrible. I know she says she's been a therapist for 20 years, but she's absolutely horrible. Um, I know therapists are not supposed to be referees when it comes to couples. They're not supposed to take sides. I really believe they should keep a safe space for everyone to express their feelings. But a lot of people come to therapy because they're poor communicators. That's part of the reason why they're at therapy, is because they communicate poorly. And so a lot of times, all that poor communication they were doing in the house, they come to the therapist's office and they want to repeat that same poor communication style. And a lot of times it's hurtful. The words that come out of people's mouths are hurtful. So I do believe that in a therapist's office, a therapist does need to draw some boundaries, right? Because therapy should be a safe space. You want everyone to be able to express their real thoughts, their emotions, what they're really feeling deep inside. But you can't just allow them to say whatever the hell they want to say, to the point that they're actually doing more damage in the therapy office. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're hurting each other at home, the way you're talking to each other, treating each other. But then when you come to the therapy office, because I want you to be able to speak your mind, I'm just going to let you keep saying the same old things. No, you can draw boundaries. You can start teaching couples right away how to have healthy communication without what was going on. I'm going to tell you, this first couple we're going to look at, their name is Jay and Daisy, and Daisy's mouth is out of control. Her mouth is out of control. She needs some boundaries. And if the J fella hasn't been able to draw boundaries with her, or she has not been able to respect the boundaries he's tried to draw, then the therapist is going to have to draw some boundaries and start teaching her how there is a way to express yourself, your emotions, your feelings, without saying the kind of stuff she says. Like she said, I think one of her worst lines, one of Daisy's worst lines was, let me get this right. I put it in my notes, when she said, "What is convenient about raising a baby with a man you don't like?" That's not helpful. That's not helpful. You could talk about your struggles. You could talk about where you feel you need more help. You could talk about a lot of things, but stringing those phrases, those words together, that's intent on doing harm. And that's where boundaries need to be drawn, because if you don't make therapy a safe space for both people, they're not going to want to go, and you need people to come so that you can help them. So I already see that I'm not going to be agreeing with this therapist too much, because already in episode one, I was like, what the heck is going on here? This She's making it worse. People come to therapy to help resolve issues. It just seemed like this therapist was just let them just fly off the handle. She was more agitating. And then a lot of times I felt like she was putting words in the people's mouths, actually telling them what their emotion was, instead of trying to help them come to some of their own conclusions on some of the things they might be feeling. It was just so many things that I didn't like about it. And honestly, if I was in her office, I don't know if I would come back. I don't know if I would come back. Maybe it's going to get better. Maybe it's one of these situations where it starts off bad and it's going to get better. We'll have to see. I know I was first wondering how they even got this title, Blue Therapy. I was like, is it a type of therapy I never heard of? Because I ain't no psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist. But I Googled it because y'all know I Google everything. And no, it looks like it's just the title that I guess the producers or the creators of the show came up with. And then what was interesting, they had this little tagline that said, where calm meets conflict. And I was like, calm meets conflict. Um, what do you mean? I mean, you gonna bring calm to the conflict? Is that what you're trying to say? And then their other tagline was, healing isn't always peaceful. Yeah, it is. You know what? It may not be easy when you're getting to the healing. It may not be easy. It may hurt. It may be a little hard. I always say that. But in the end, healing should be peaceful. What's the point of coming? If I ain't gonna come out of here with some peace, why the heck would I need to be healed? That's why we are coming to therapy. That's why we're trying to become healed, because we do want to get to a peaceful place. So maybe it's the road to healing isn't always easy or peaceful. Okay, I could agree with that. But in the end, healing should actually be peaceful. That's why I always tell people, if you are still walking around with a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, you're not healed. You're not healed. A lot of people say, I'm healed. Well, how are you healed? Because you just avoiding it? Girl, that ain't healed. Healed is when you can be there and you still feel good. You see what I'm saying? Healed is when a lot of people think healing is because I remove all the toxicity people out of my life. Great. That allows you to go over here and get healed because you're not having all this interference of toxic people weighing you down. It's hard to get better when there's a lot of toxicity around you. It's like being on a diet. Imagine that you want to lose 15 pounds and your house is full of sweets and food that's bad for you and carbs. It's hard to be on a good road to a good diet when your cabinets are full and your refrigerator are full of bad foods. So the first thing you do is you purge. You purge. That's what people are supposed to do, right? If you're alcoholic and you're trying to not be an alcoholic, you throw out all the liquor in your house. You throw out, if you're trying to lose weight, you throw out all the sweets, all the bad things are for you. That's just the first step, right? But you can't live in a world with no sweets. If you're an alcoholic, you can't live in a world where alcohol is not going to be around you. When you're really healed is when you can be in a bar and not overdrink. When you can be at a party and other people are drinking, but you don't feel the need to overdrink. When you can have some chips in your cabinet, but you can practice some restraint. You can have some self-control, right? That's when you healed. So when people say I'm healed, I got rid of all the toxic people. I'm like, well, how are you gonna get rid of all the toxic people in your world? You just gonna stay in a bubble in your house? You're not healed because you don't even trust yourself to be around those people because you don't know how to control or control your own triggers. You don't know how to react to toxic people when they trigger you. You're not healed. You in a bubble. You see what I'm saying? So is it easy? No, but in the end, healing should bring peacefulness. So this Karen lady, I'm not putting too much stock in her, y'all. I'm really not. So we might need to call on all the therapists in my audience. I know I got a lot of people in the mental health field in my audience because y'all be chiming down in my comments all the time, teaching me some things I've learned throughout my own life, my own journeys. I've been to therapy, I've been to counseling. Everybody's, I'm saying you pick up these things as you get older. But I'm really looking forward to this show because I think it can help some people. If we really just take some time to talk about some of these things, I feel like it can help some people. So I just want to let you know right now that although they go over three couples in the episode, I'm probably only going to go over one in each one of my videos because I don't want to be rushed. I really don't. I think this is a good opportunity to help some people because like I say, I believe these storylines are very, very, very common. So first of all, we're going to start with Jay and Daisy. Jay and Daisy. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I already knew that we're going to have a bit of a problem with Daisy because the first thing she said when she came into the room was, ooh, I like this room. It's fit for a queen, just like me. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have watched my videos before, and a lot of people call themselves queen, which is okay, but I like to know what comes with that title, right? I like to know what their belief is behind that title, because if they're just saying they're a queen and all women are queens, I'm cool with it. I'm really am cool with it. I like it. I like it a lot. But sometimes some people are walking around with a queen crown, and they're also looking at that as a crown in which other people should cater to them. That's what I look out for, right? What is the intent behind calling yourself a queen? If you believe all people are queens and you want to call all women queens, I'm with you. But if somehow or another you've kind of put on yourself a crown and other people don't have the same crown, then there might be a problem. So that was my first thing with Daisy. I said, I'm gonna have to understand you, Daisy, a little bit more. She walked in and said she was a queen. The second thing she said, because she was the first one that spoke, she said that, what attracted her to Jay. And she said, ooh, Chef Kiss, his looks. And I thought, ooh, okay. There's another thing. See, now what I'm getting to is how a man chooses a woman, how a woman chooses a man. And right now, what I know Daisy has done is she's chosen a man for his looks, right? His looks. And what does his looks do for her? Like, think about it. You own your own looks, right? If you're beautiful, you own your own looks. So when someone is dating you for your looks, kind of what they're saying is, I'm going to take your looks and I'm going to use your looks to make me feel a certain kind of way. That's what they're kind of saying. So now I'm wondering, why does a woman choose a man simply for his looks? When you think about all the things you want a man to be for you as a husband, as a protector, as a provider, the things you really want as a father, you got to ask yourself, where does looks fall into that category? So I'm not saying you got to be with someone that you're not attracted to. But when that becomes the most compelling reason that you like him for his looks, for what you can use that for, or how it can make you feel, now I'm starting to get to a little bit of the insides of Daisy. First, she calls herself a queen, the queen crown. Then she chooses a man for his looks. Okay, I got my eye on you, Daisy. I just got to learn a little bit more. You see what I'm saying? But now I'm understanding your thought process. And as we go through these conversations with Jay and Daisy, I'm going to hear any more that I have to hear. So we find out that these two have been together for 3 years and they now have a brand new baby. The baby just turned 1. And they say, why are you here? They say, well, the reason why we're here is because we got poor communication, right? At this time, I haven't really heard any of them say anything bad, but they just say, hey, we got poor communication. And if we don't come here, this is Daisy talking, then we may not even make it. We may break up. Um, we find out that they did break up. We find out that prior to the baby being born, they were broken up. They weren't even together, right? As we go through this conversation, at first, a lot of the conversation is around the duties of the baby, or being there for Daisy with the baby, and that Jay isn't supportive and all these types of things. And another part I really didn't like about the therapist was she concentrated on the present day. Like, why are we here talking about the communication problems they're having and the fact that she's not feeling supported with the baby when they was broken up before the baby? That tells you whatever problems they're having now, they were here before the baby. So why are we talking about the baby? The baby ain't the root cause. The baby coming didn't start it. It may have made it worse, but it didn't start it. We need to get back to where it started, right? And that was before the baby. So when you're saying we got poor communication, let's not talk about the communication with the baby. Let's talk about the communication before the baby, because you was broken up. It was so bad. You broke up. You was going your own separate ways. And then Daisy became pregnant. They became pregnant together. And y'all got back together because you want to say, hey, it's worth it now to try to figure this out. And they're still struggling. But I would want to even go back before them and say, okay, so the bad communication did not start with the baby. Nope, it didn't. It started before we had the baby. Great. Let me go back further, because I need to find out when the poor communication started. Okay, how about before y'all was together? Your previous relationships. Did you have good communication with those boyfriends or those girlfriends? No, yes, there was poor communication too, right? Great. So let's start making all this poor communication to be about the baby. Let's start making this poor communication to be even about the two of you together, because what you're telling me is y'all have poor communication before you even met. Let's go back again before the boyfriends. When was the last, you know what? Let's just jump to the point. When was the last time you had good communication? Because what you'll sometimes find out, people want to always talk about how bad things are. Well, let's go back to when it went wrong. When was the last time it was good? When was the last time you saw good communication? And eventually, you know where you get back to your birth home and you start to realize, honestly, I ain't never seen good communication. There you go. So stop blaming your current partner on bad communication. They may have it, but stop believing that all your bad communication problems from yourself or from your partner started when the two of you got together. Y'all have individual issues, problems that started long before you got here. And now that you're both bringing them to the partnership, it's easy to point fingers, but really what we need to do is point fingers at ourselves, right? Because if we both come to the partnership with better communication, we'll get better, as opposed to saying, I can come with my bad communication and you the one that needs to get better. Nope, not gonna work. So one of the things that Daisy says is she says that, and the reason why I'm speaking Daisy's words initially, because she was doing all the talking in the beginning. That's the way they edited it, So, but what she said was, Jay can't take criticism. Well, who does? Who wants to hear criticism on a regular basis? So almost like, wait a minute, you gonna down a person for saying they can't take criticism? Well, are you saying they can't take no criticism, or they can't take out as much as you dishing, right? Do you want a person to be able to take out all the criticism you dish out? Is it that they can't take it, or is it that you dish out too much of it? Because there is a difference between criticism and conversation. And the fact that Daisy framed it as he can't take criticism, she's actually owning the fact that I give him a lot of criticism and he can't take it. Well, whose fault is that? Does he have to be so tough to be able to take your criticism? And why do you think he has to be so tough? Is it because you feel you also have to take criticism? This is where I'm getting to Miss Daisy, right? This is where later on he tells her, I have a soft spot. You know that I have a tender heart. So we're starting to get into the dynamics of these two people. And now I'm starting to kind of get a feeling that Jay is self-proclaiming he has a soft heart. He's more tender-hearted. Daisy is owning the fact that she likes to dish out criticism. She's also owning the fact that she's a queen, that she picked him for his looks, that she also says that she feels, let me figure it right here, what she said something. Hold on one second. I don't want to lose what she was mentioning, what she was talking about. Oh, she told the story about how they got back together. And this was a moment when I saw some real tender moments from Daisy. And what she said was, when we broke up, we weren't together. She discovered that they had, gotten pregnant. And the therapist was asking them, so it was unplanned pregnancy. They said yes. And did both of you want to be pregnant at that time? And they said at the time, no, they knew it wasn't right timing. And what Daisy said was she started to bond with the baby while the baby was in her womb. Of course, right? We know that happens, right? She said she started to bond with the baby when the baby was in her womb. And after a while, what she said was um, she became attached to the baby, and she couldn't see herself basically aborting the baby. And I want to say she started crying. And as she was crying, she was very uncomfortable crying. She didn't like herself to be crying over it. And she said about herself, I thought I was a soldier. Girl. So let's go back to what Daisy thinks of herself, how Daisy is trying to present in the world. She's a queen. She's strong. Queen. Let me tell you, when you call yourself a queen, you are also not only saying people are there in some ways to service you. Queendom also comes with responsibility. There's a sort of a strength that comes in with the queen, right? And so she's saying she was a soldier, right? Like I said, some of the harsh words that she used. I'm trying to start to get this image of how Daisy got to where she is. And she said, I thought I was a soldier. And I'm thinking, just because you're crying, that you're looking at that as being weak, that you're not soldier enough. And then I said, oh, I get it, Daisy. You keeping your baby, when you said you bonded with your baby and you didn't think you could do that to your baby, which is basically discard your child. It was the first time I believe deep down, Daisy chose someone else other than herself. She chose another person to save, to please, to nurture other than herself. I think Daisy nurtures herself a lot. And this baby, when it came along, required her to now give of herself to this baby because the baby needs you. The baby needs the mama, right? And so, more than likely, what's happening in their relationship is if you were in a world in which you only nurtured yourself, you always expected others to nurture you. You were out in the world saying, I'm going to choose things and choose people who are just going to give to me. I'm not regularly giving to others. A baby comes along and a baby starts sucking energy and time and emotions out of you. You're now having to give to this child when you're not even used to giving, you're used to receiving all the time. You become drained because you're not used to giving that much of yourself. It's difficult, but it's even motherhood is difficult for a lot of women, but it's even more difficult for people who are not used to giving of themselves because you have to give to a child, and those who don't give to a child, that's a whole nother review. So I'm going to keep going on. We're going to start talking about how these two people, we're just talking about Daisy right now, how she might have gotten here, right? And how and why she's so comfortable with criticism. Did she get a lot of criticism in her childhood, in her earlier years? And so she's comfortable with criticism because she, like she said, she was a soldier. She's been getting it her whole life. She got a lot of it her whole entire life. She got criticism. So now here she is an adult and she communicates with words of criticism, and she doesn't understand why Jay can't take the criticism. I don't understand why you can't take criticism. I'm a soldier. I've been taking it my whole life. Well, here will be the question we'll have to get to Daisy. Daisy, is it for Jay to have to be able to take all your criticism, or is it for you to do work not to be so critical? And for you not to be so critical, I think you got to figure out how you became critical, why you became critical, and who taught you to be critical, right? That's what, and the thing about being a critical person is you're comfortable with giving out criticism because you've been around it a lot of times, but you're still very tender and triggered by other people's criticism. Because one of the things that Jay talks about with Daisy is that she doesn't listen to him. He says, I try to express my feelings and my thoughts, but she doesn't hear me. She doesn't listen to me, right? And sometimes that happens if you were a person who you felt you weren't heard when you were younger, who you felt people criticized you a lot when you were younger. Sometimes when you grow up, one is you're comfortable with criticism, so you can easily dish it out. And second of all, you're still a little bit triggered by other people um, wanting to also express themselves because it reminds you of the when you were a child, when you had to consider everyone else and you just had to sit back and take the criticism, right? It can really trigger you. So in a lot of ways, you can end up being in this position where you're comfortable giving out criticism, but you yourself also don't want to listen, right? And all of this doesn't even come from your current partner. It comes from the way in which you were raised and what you learned when you were raised. All these negative communication patterns and emotions have to be dealt with before you can even deal with a couple. So, in a lot of ways, Daisy has a lot of work to do before she even is in a partnership, right? Now, let's talk about Jay. Let's talk about Jay. One of the things that Daisy talks about is she's struggling. She feels like he doesn't support her, right? She says, I don't feel supported. And one of the examples that she brought up was when she gave birth to their child. And she said when she gave birth to the child and she was in the hospital, within a couple of hours, Jay leaves the hospital and he goes and gets a tattoo. And what she said is, I didn't feel supported. I'm quite sure she probably felt abandoned. All those things. As any mother would in that very raw and tender moment, I think that her feelings were valid. So, what I didn't like about the therapist, and this is why I don't even know what went on, is because the therapist just let that conversation go on. She let Daisy express why she was hurt, that she felt unsupported, but then she let Jay come in to say, "What do you mean I don't support you? I support you. I've done this, and this." But what the therapist failed to do in that moment, in my eyes, is ask Jay, why in that moment, Jay, did you decide to leave the hospital to go get a tattoo? Why in that moment? Right? No one's saying you can't get a tattoo. I don't even know what the tattoo was of. Maybe it was of a baby. I don't know. I might even ask that, what is the tattoo of, Jay? I might would have known what is the tattoo. Okay. And then I would have wanted to know why in that moment do you feel the urge, the need to go and get a tattoo. I need to know the emotions surrounding why Jay would skip out on that moment. Was he feeling overwhelmed? What happened? What emotion did you feel that you had to leave? You had to run. You had to escape from that room. What is it? Because then we can start figuring out what makes Jay walk away, right? What makes Jay walk away? And then in that moment, Daisy was left feeling abandoned and she was left feeling unsupported because her feelings were valid. But like I said, the therapist was so horrible, she left. Now, if we go back to the moment in which Jay has said he's soft, sort of soft hearted, a tender spot for Daisy, and also a tender spot for for his baby. Um, and he seems like because Daisy, we I believe probably gives way more criticism than she should. What I'm wondering is how Jay was raised, right? Um, and what type of upbringing he had that in that moment he would skip out on that moment. I think he clearly loves Daisy. I could see the love he has for Daisy, and I could really feel the love he had for his child. So get this, you love a woman, you love, you're relishing in the birth of your children. Did you feel overwhelmed? Did you feel a large sense of responsibility? And the weight of that responsibility in that moment made you want to get away? Is that healthy to do? No, it ain't healthy, but I need to know where it came from. And that's what I was saying. This therapist just let people talk and let people sit in they shit. That she didn't really help clean them up. It's like somebody walking in with a dirty diaper and they said, "Hey, I shit on myself." And she said, "Really? What did you eat? You're not gonna help clean me up? You just gonna let me sit here in this dirty diaper the whole time? You're not gonna put a fresh diaper on me at least so now that I'm clean and fresh, we can have a good conversation?" I don't know. I don't know how this series is going to go. I don't know if I'm sure we're going to get a part 2 of this couple, but I got a lot of questions. And Jay also started to mention that he felt trapped in a box. You see what I'm saying? Maybe he's a runner, he's a track star. Maybe when things get rough and things get tough or things get hard, Jay runs. He's a runner. Where you learn that from, right? Daisy's a soldier. She says, I stand in it. I stand on business. I know how to fight, right? I got grit. Jay, as he said, he's tenderhearted. He can't deal with all this criticism. He can't deal with all of this pressure. And maybe what happened was in that moment, he was feeling out of pressure and he ran. We need to figure out where that came from. All right. How were you raised? Right? Were you raised with a mother and a father where you saw a father stand in the gap, right, and uphold the family? Or did you see a family where you were a single parent and it was the mother that always had it to be strong? And so you was the baby boy. So your mother took care of you. And so in this moment, you're looking at your girlfriend, your wife, Daisy, and like she can handle it. She can handle it. I don't really need to stand in the gap and be strong for her, even though I am feeling these emotions that are heavy for me. What makes you leave? What makes you run away? You see? Um, there's one point when he was talking and he was talking about feeling trapped, and Daisy said, "Well, hey, you know what? You if you don't want to be here, you can get up and go." No, 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 Daisy. There you go, Daisy. That's coming from a hurt place. Okay, everybody knows he can leave. There ain't no fence around your lot. Ain't nobody in chains. They can leave. You don't just say that. But the emotion he feels about running to run away because the pressure is too much. Where does that come from? She says that Daisy doesn't listen to. He says a lot. He also doesn't feel listened to. He feels probably in some ways a bit disrespected by some of the things that comes out Daisy's mouth. But hey, this is such interesting storylines because I kind of feel like what this couple is going through, a lot of couples experience this. So, like I said, whether it's fake or not, I'm gonna watch it because these storylines right now are good. Um, they asked one final question. They said, the therapist said, if you didn't have the baby, do you think you two would be together? And they both said, yeah, they thought they would be together. They said, in fact, the babies actually made it harder. Exactly. Because you had communications before the baby, communication issues before the baby. Truth be told, like I said at the top of the video, you had communication issues before you even came into this relationship, right? You two actually are not the blame of your problems right now. You're only the blame because you're continuing them in the relationship. But where it started, you two didn't start it in each other. And that's why I think you need to give each other grace. In these moments, each person needs to give each other grace to say, hey, right now we are doing damage to each other. But the truth of the matter is, we didn't actually inflict these original wounds on each other, right? We were hurt before we got here, and now we are hurting each other. So give each other some grace to say, hey, we now have a responsibility to fix those wounds that are causing us now to hurt each other, right? And let's stop blaming each other for all of our wounds that we have right now. Now, we might say, hey, let's not re injure those wounds, but we have to realize that the person we are standing in front of in this relationship did not cause all of our original wounds. And once we own that, then we take more responsibility of, of healing some of those wounds. Through therapy says, what they say, healing isn't always peaceful. That should be your goal though. Healing should be peaceful, right? But healing also takes not only you working with your existing partner, but also you reconciling some damage that was done prior to you even getting here. But anyway, we're going to keep going. Come back. The next couple is going to be Victor and Maria. We're going to talk about them on the next video. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.